Hello and welcome back, everybody out there in Exburst land. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. We have coming at you is the newest episode of Through the Gauntlet. We are joined yet again by Izarzin and by TOGDX. First off, shout yourselves out. We'll start with you, Izarzin. Shout out who you want to shout out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Izarzin, and obviously I am with the Big Beard Pirates TCG. Represent. And basically, I'm a perennial green player, as you've seen in the other videos. So I'm just here to show how it's done.
Yes. And they do a lot of Union Arena content and other content for other games, like One Piece, I believe, is the other one you do.
Yeah, One Piece. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, make sure you check them out. They're linked in the description, anyways. And how about you, Tio? Well, shout yourself out.
Yeah, man. TOGDX. Shout outs to Kurapika. Shout outs to Hunter Hunter. Top 3 anime all time. And shout outs to my locals in Orlando, always roughing me up.
Hell yeah. And you can follow him on Twitch, which is linked down, and YouTube as well, which is going to be linked there. So we are first going to start off with a round of questioning, going over the basic concepts of these decks. So, Izarzin, what role do you want Sinon GDO to play in the current meta? Is it a sniper control deck or something else that you think you need to be able to display?
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, with Sinon GGO, there is very much like the snipe control aspect. But personally, I do find it that if you just lean completely into control, you're going to be in very awkward situations against certain decks like, Saitama, because you can't really do too much to him. I mean, it is possible to snipe him, but you need a lot of resources for that. So I do tend to do the control whenever it comes up, especially against certain decks that are just trying to spam 4Ks. You kind of want to clear that board out. But I would say it's very much like a tempo based deck in terms of you're getting, you want those 2 energy generators. So, but you're using like your first 3 turns to be able to push out and be able to have like a defensive and like offensive. So that's what I would say. Yeah, very much like tempo control is what I would call it.
Awesome. Now, when you're piloting Sinon, what's your general win condition line? Are you trying to dominate the board early or play reactive?
I think not necessarily dominating the board early, but I would say that I do want to have effective attacks. And by that I mean, if they have a 1500 body, I have a 2k body that's able to attack through. And then if they have a 3k body, I'll have like a 4k body. So I do kind of want to have that type of, play in my front line while I'm generating, 2 energy in the back.
Fantastic. So, what does the ideal opening hand look like for you? And how do you sequence your first 3 turns to set up to be able to win in that late game?
Yeah. Obviously, to get to, these big 6 cost and 7 cost raids, which, is like the main win condition, it is basically trying to get to a 2 energy generator as fast as you can. So, especially for going first, you want to see that Sinon, which is, a staple in most green decks, which is, 2 cost. Whenever it becomes active, it generates 2. You want to get that out in your second turn. And then for, going second, you do want to see, your 3 costs, right? Especially, the one that searches Kirito, it's pretty good because you get to search out for your raid so that you're able to eventually, raid out after next turn. So you always have a play to react to whatever your opponent does.
Oh, fantastic. So, you mentioned that in the early game you kind of are on a blocking status, more of a I want to match what they're doing on the board, and then late game break through them. When do you know it is time to shift gears from I'm defensive to now I am in control of the game happening? Are there any telltale signs in the matchup that tells you to flip that switch into aggro?
Yeah. So what I would say in terms of aggro, it's basically dependent upon how lethal is their board. if I'm sitting at like, say I've taken like chip damage and I'm at like 4 life, if they're sitting there with like, like two 4Ks and maybe like a 3K and then like a smaller body, and I'm at a disadvantage in terms of every single block, I want to be able to, have enough energy for the next turn to be able to basically just combo out, get my 7 cost out, get my 6 cost out. And then with that synergy, I'm able to completely like wipe most of their board essentially, or at least force them to block considering the Kirito has damage 2 in certain conditions.
So you did mention you want to like hold 2 energy on the back line, but push up the other things. Using that win active double energy producer. I mean, that's a fantastic card. I play that in non-green decks nowadays because how good that is. Are there any other tips you would recommend to people to be able to manage your energy more? Maybe about specific cards in the deck?
Yeah, absolutely. As I've been playtesting like against all these decks, I've noticed that there are situations where, yeah, your 7 cost Kirito is great, but that also doesn't allow you to be able to push anything in the back line. So one of like the key cards that I've noticed is the Buggy, which right now I have a one of, but obviously with all the play testing I've done, I'll probably amp it up to like maybe 2 or even 3, depending on how tight the deck list is. But yeah, Buggy is a very good card because essentially you're able to trash card main phase. It doesn't even have to be active, and it gets +2 energy, so it would be at 3 energy, and that allows you to push up specifically like the color trigger Sinon, which the color trigger Sinon, whenever it's 4K or more BP, it gets impact 1, so that makes it like very threatening.
Some would say it's even impactful. Uh,
Oh yeah.
yes, I'm very funny. So are there any like key secrets to warn people to keep an eye out for with this deck? Like little tiny details that you might miss at a first glance, but when you're first picking up the deck, and in time you will start to get good with. I will say one that I noticed is keep in mind that 7-drop Kirito raid. If your opponent's trying to target it on their turn with an event, they have to discard a card. Keep that in mind. It changes a lot of plays. But any other tips such as that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've noticed even in like, say, if you're sniping, there's a lot of thinking into the sniping compared to like, say, the Kurapika, just because Kurapika is 5K, so most of the time its selection is very free, while my snipe is 4K sometimes. So I have to be aware of what I need to snipe. And then also what this deck is different about, compared to Kurapika, is there's a lot of things that can increase the BP of your stuff by 1K, like the raid Sinon does it. Activate main, the 7 cost Kirito does it, and there's other certain cards that are able to do it and that benefit from it. So I would say that's the key thing, is knowing how to get effective attacks through by increasing their BP.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, over to you, Tio. Kurapika decks often thrive on disruption. What role do you see it playing when you're at the table? Tempo, control, or more of a toolbox on average?
Generally, I'm trying to be a control deck. I play a lot of matchups, as is this one as in the video, like a game of chicken. I always want to be the last one to raid, so I always have the biggest body on board last.
Mm.
So all my removal has impact, everything's huge, so as long as I survive long enough to get it out, that's what I want to be.
All right, so talk me through your ideal pilot, starting from turn 0 up to when you're finally dropping your Kurapika. What early setups are you aiming for before you just shift the gear into you are now dominating the board?
The primary thing for me is being at 5 energy going into my third turn. So I'm at 5 energy. I can play any of my big bodies, my 5 cost Kurapikas. I could play my Hanzo. I could play my Hisoka. I could play Leorio. Or I could play my Neon. And Neon gets me up to 7 and play something active from my deck. So I want to be at 5 when turn 3 starts, so I can either Neon into another big body, or even AP drop Neon, or play a bunch of big bodies. That's the main goal every time, no matter the matchup.
Okay, so accelerate up to 5 and then get ready to just start turning the gears as soon as your opponent has something worth targeting, right?
Right. Anything Any big body I'll play as is, like Hisoka's or 5 cost Kurapika, I'll play them. And if they get blown up by a bigger body, that's when I raid in response. But I will still establish a board scary enough to make them want to do something first. I want to make them jump first and respond accordingly.
Now, you do have a few unique cards in Kurapika that allows this deck to be competitive, despite the fact that it is severely lacking on triggers within the pile itself. What are some of these cards that you think a new pilot should never underestimate and make sure they understand the interactions of?
Of course, Neon. I mean, Neon's very straightforward, but it is the best green card still in the game, probably. You want to have that down pack. You want to also be weary of when your 2 cost Kurapika has impact. He gains impact when there's a 5k on the field. And also be wary of all your Kurapikas that gain benefits based on either the number of energy you have or things of that nature. Because a 3 cost Kurapika becomes a 4k with 6 energy. Your 5 cost Kurapika gains impact with 6 energy. So just keep track of what your energy costs, because all your things get buffs as you get more energy in the back line. So keep all that in mind.
So would you say that you have to be much more conscious of your energy line because of all these cards that have this stipulation on the energy? Sorry.
Yes, we have so few triggers. We're in the mid 30s on average. And a lot of our big energy cards are not swinging. We're not pushing up Neon. We're not pushing up Netero. We don't want to push up Basho. We will if we have to, even though he's step.
He does.
If you run a bouncer, Leorio, you don't want to. You're not going to swing at him either. So a lot of our stuff is both non-triggered and/or we don't want to swing with it. So we really want to get the energy established, and those 3 cards that make up that 6 energy, ideally never move ever. And your last energy spot is like the loading zone for your raids.
Okay. And there's also one other card I want to give a small shout out to because I'm noticing more people playing it is Melody. It is a unique card that generates energy on the front line, and that seems to be like a huge swinging point for your deck when you're able to push it up, get to 5 still, play your Neon, and then cascade off. Are there any other cards like that in the deck, or is that the only one that can really be on the front line to still produce energy?
That's the only one in the deck that does frontline energy. And it's funny because Kurapikas did not run that card the first like 3 weeks of the game.
No one did.
We were not about that life, but then we found out that we were all wrong.
Yeah,
So now
you
we
were
all run
incorrect.
so now we all run between 2 to 4 melodies depending on the person, because the cards.
Yeah, and it has an active trigger. Like, that card's insane. It's so good.
Yeah, it does it all. Fitting, because the character in the show is really cool. I'm a big fan, so I'm happy. I'm happy your card's also sick.
Oh, absolutely. She's a fantastic character. Tragic story, but fantastic. But thank you very much on that portion of the commentary. Now, let's get on to the specific matchup. So, we are talking Sinon and Kurapika. What role are you trying to play, Izarzin, as the Sinon? Are you more the control in this, do you think? Or do you think that you are the aggressor?
I think I am the aggressor, just because in terms of like raid options, he only really has a 7 cost, and I also have a 7 cost, but I also have a 6 cost. So I'm kind of able to finagle around, and like I don't necessarily have to get to 7 energy. And also potentially, he might not have that Neon, so he won't be able to get like the value from being able to play a body active. So as much as I can, I need to, push the threat early, especially trying to hold back my raids until, he puts a threat up front, which usually it'll be like his 5 cost Kurapika. That's a pretty good threat. And then, yeah, that's basically it. I just kind of want to be the aggressor in this situation.
Okay. Now over to you, Tio. Your role, since they're claiming they're the aggressor, do you think that that is the same, or are you going to say that maybe you want to be something else in this matchup?
100% reactive. I want to be the last person to raid every time. I want to play enough big bodies to scare them to do something. That's why I play the Kurapikas, knowing that they're going to get dealt with, and the Hisokas and the Leorios. I know I'm going to lose them, which is fine. That's not the point. The point is to get the big bodies out of their hands and then deal with them accordingly.
Okay. Now, what's your ideal board state look like on turn 4 or 5 versus Sinon? Are you trying to force trades already, or are you looking for that control window to start shifting gears?
Turn 4 or 5, ideally, I'd have at least 6 energy in the back, and I would have 2 bodies in the front. Any combination of 5 costs, Kurapika, Leorio, Hisoka, or Hanzo. Any combination of the two, it doesn't matter which two. There's 2 of them on the front and 6 energy, or preferably 7, but at least 6 in the back.
Okay. And you think that would put you in like a fairly advantageous position in the matchup?
Yeah, because at that point I have 2 big bodies on the field, both of which all the bodies do ridiculous things. So Hisoka
Mhm.
can force block and he draws a card. Leorio, if you don't block him, he draws a card.
Mm.
Kurapika gets impact and he lets me scry my deck. And Hanzo does double damage or is a 5k. So 2 of these combinations will make you have to do something to get rid of them. Because if you leave them alone, they can win the game by themselves.
True. Okay. Nice. So, Izarzin, what's your line to victory against Kurapika? Since they want to be so solidly built up on 4 or 5, what are you trying to do with your deck?
Yeah. I guess this is in terms of like specific deck building. I do run more zero cost and like just like the zero cost and one cost ratio. I do have like one more compared to his deck. But so yeah, in those situations, I'm basically trying to push up those things. And also, the main thing is the least amount of resources that I have to use against like the cards that he was saying, like the Lorio and stuff, the better it is for me. And what I mean by the least amount of resources, I mean in certain situations that we see like during this video, there are certain, he hard plays the Lorio or hard plays like the Kurapika, the 5 cost one. And basically, my ideal play would be to use the special trigger, which is like ultimate ratio Hecate, and basically that card just able to snipe. Yeah, I'm able to use that on any Sinon and just give it 2500.
Mhm.
And being able to use that card lets me kind of gain advantage as well because I'm also drawing a card with that effect.
Yes. Now, Kurapika does have a very similar card. Do you think the discrepancy in cost between the two of them makes a big difference, Tio? Yours costing 5 and his costing 4, I believe ratio is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I know it's one higher, and usually the jump to 4 to 5 normally is like a big jump. But for the big green energy deck, honestly, I think it's a big deal. And considering mine gives 3k and not two
Hmm.
and a half, I feel like it's worth the trade off.
Oh, nice. Now, what do you think is the silver bullet for Sinon? What is the thing that pushes Sinon to be stronger than Kurapika in the matchup, even though the two decks on paper are doing relatively the same thing?
Um,
I,
I think yeah, I just need to keep hammering on this point. It's basically like the zero and the one costs are able to generate like effective attacks. So like my zero cost Kirito, he's able to obviously he's a 2k, and I'm able to get him out from the first turn. And also a sleeper thing. I don't think most Sinons play this, but I do. I run like two of Musketeer X, which is able to give another character plus 1k, which actually mattered in a certain situation early on. And then my one cost Sinon is 2500 and also has nullify impact. So it's able to block that. If I'm going second and maybe he wants to aggress, his hand enables him to aggress. I'm able to just play that out up front, and then I'm able to hold my ground with it.
Okay. And how about for
And then
you? Oh, sorry. You keep going. Keep going.
no, that's fine. Yeah, no, that was pretty much my point.
Okay. And how about for you, Tio? Do you think there's a silver bullet that when you draw this, you are going to be able to push through what they're trying to do and be more aggressive?
I don't think there's really one. I think it's just important I'm able to establish bodies. So I guess the closest thing would be being able to play neons successfully. 'Cause it's such a big deal getting me to 7 and then playing a body active
Okay.
and possibly raiding from it. Considering I only have half the raids he does, being
Yeah.
able to get more energy and do a raid like that, a big jump for me. So I would say that's the closest, but not really one key thing really in this particular matchup.
So, last question for each of you. Give me a ballpark matchup percentage after playing it that you think your respective deck should be against the other one. You can rate it based off of skill experience or just average experience. Either one works perfectly fine. We'll start with Izarzin.
Just full ballpark number. Let's say just like two experienced players, right? Usually, let's say 100 games each. I think it would be probably like in the 60 to 40% in favor of GGO. Just because,
Mm.
like I said, there's certain situations that it does become a more effective thing. But I will say the higher chances lowers when they have like a neon early on, for
Mm.
sure.
Okay. And how about for you, Tio?
I fully agree.
60
Six
40?
four, 6'4" GGO. Um, yeah, just having those additional 4 raids and those 4 raids being able to remove everything but my 5 costs is a big deal. That should be it's quite hampering to have as much removal as me, and you're a little faster. So it actually it can be quite a pain. So I feel like 6'4" is an accurate ratio.
All right. So still very winnable based off of skill, a little bit of luck, but it is in favor of the newer Kurapika deck. Oh, I'm going to say it until it pisses somebody off. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. And stick around for part 2, where we go over Sinon versus a completely different deck, Blue Bomber. Welcome back. This is part 2, going over the Hunter matchup against Sinon. What is this? SAO. That's right. But before we jump into that, let's go over the philosophy of Blue Bomber. Now, for anybody who's unaware, there are other decks in Hunter other than Kurapika. They are not necessarily bad decks whatsoever. They're more of the fun tier, but they do have a very strong play against many other decks in the meta. And Blue Bomber is one of those ones that I feel rewards you for the skill you have with the deck and for the tech build slots that you put into it. Tio, you have quite a bit of experience with Blue Bomber. What do you think is its defining feature that may lure people to want to be able to play it?
This deck is what I call angry control. You swing a lot of small swings. If you see something dangerous, blow it up. It's actually quite straightforward, really.
It is straightforward, but the amount of different lines that you have to take is something that makes the deck very interesting. As you can see on screen right now, there's a Bara. In my personal opinion, that's probably one of the most valuable cards in the entire deck. But what are some other cards like Bara that you think, when you're able to set them up, can really push you forward to be able to start winning?
So you're correct. Bara is number one. If there's ever a scenario where my opponent is picking who to sideline on my front line, there is no scenario I want them to pick Bara. I want him to live all the time forever because he turns on my get through raids. So
Mhm.
he's number one, clearly.
Please
Number
kill
two,
Genthru. Please.
number two, honestly, is between the raid get through, of course, being the removal and a raid,
Yeah.
and also Loreno. The 2 costs, switch to resting, look at top
Mm.
card of your deck, put the top or bottom of your deck. He works well with your risky dice, works well with your Bara. You don't have to do things blind. If you have just the get through raid, you can see if it's 2 integer or not first, and then not have to gamble on it.
Bop
It's
it.
it's hypothesized gambling, you know? It's
Yeah, yeah.
fancy.
Yeah. You put the odds in your favor, as bombers do in Hunter. So, what role do you want Blue Bomber to take in most matchups? Let's just throw out like two completely different style of decks. Let's say Green Saitama. What role do you want to be? And then we'll put you up against, say, Sonic Red.
It's funny. It's a blue deck. It's an angry control deck. It looks complicated, but it's not that bad, and it's also not that complicated because in every matchup, you are an extremely aggro deck. Your deck is made of a bunch of small swings, and then occasionally, if something dangerous pops up, you remove it either with your raid or Paladin's necklace, or you get even minus it with Bara to make it so they have to block with a body and lose it. So it's quite it's a very aggro deck. There's no swapping. There's nothing fancy like that. There's no multi swings. It's aggro by clearing things out of the way.
Okay, so in the Sinon matchup in particular, how would you define your role in it?
The same role as aggressor. I want to play things early. I want to get as much damage as I can quickly. I want to be able to find things like draw me cards so I can find my removal. So when the raids show up, and they always show up, I can deal with them accordingly. So I want to find the raid killer one so I can draw a card possibly. I want to find my gun to draw one trash one. Anything I can to make sure I have my necklaces and I have my releases. So when the raids do show up and take out half my board, I'm able to quickly get rid of them and continue on my warpath.
Yeah. Now, what is a strong tech that you have in the deck that most other decks don't have access to that really pushes Bomber to be a stronger, angry blue deck as you define it?
The biggest tech that other bombers wouldn't run? Hmm. Bomber decks are pretty. There isn't much room for flexibility because you have to run risky dice. You have to run a strip of beach, at least one. I guess the amount of Paladin's necklaces. So the main thing for bomber decks are going to be ratios because the cards in them can't really fluctuate that much.
Mhm.
You can either you could be just a Genthru pure bomber and have more Genthru cards and more bomber cards and have no Killuas or things like that, but that's for less 4Ks. Or go with the Killua package so you can able to draw cards occasionally, have another rateable 4K body. But the flexibility, a lot of the cards are accounted for. It's really just ratios because you can't really cut out too much of it.
Okay. Now, going over to the Sinon in the matchup. Let me scroll down to that portion of this conversation. Uh, after playing against Bonmer, Izarzin, how do you approach that threat level, that critical mass of small weenies to hit you that can clear your small guys early?
Um, I think I still have to do the tempo plays, but I'm kind of searching for certain cards in situations.
Mhm.
Basically, like he said, the in terms of cards, like he needs the paladin's necklace, to be able to let the Killua, be able to draw cards. And if he reveals a paladin's necklace, I need to be aware that sometimes I shouldn't raid. Maybe if I have like two raids in my hand, maybe I should just hard play one, just to at least have like an effective body. Especially like a 5K body, it's pretty hard for him to take out unless it's unless he has a special or like the paladin's necklace. But even with like the paladin's necklace, he does have to discard a card with the Kirito raids effect.
Mm. And how about for you? Actually, we pretty much went over it for you with playing the Blue Bomber. How quickly are you trying to be out of the gates? And like, what does your ideal starting hand look like when you're going up against one of these big dumb green decks, as I always call them?
Ideally, I want to have 2 to 3 zeros. I would like to have a risky dice or a bara early. And if I could get Ship of Beach or Patrick Shore, whatever they call it now, that's great. If not, that's okay. The main thing is I want to have enough zeros to where I can play all my zeros I can my first turn, and then whatever I played, push it up second turn and play all zeros possible my second turn. So either going first or second, I want to be able to do that.
Now, when you're playing in this matchup, what is your best tool in Sinon to be able to deal with the bombers' explosive turns that they have? Do you have any specific cards that really like can hammer down on your opponent and cause you to start pushing through and start winning?
Yeah, I think it's more about setup. So obviously his Bara is like very much a key threat, which I noticed as we played. So there are situations where maybe I shouldn't snipe, which that's the best way for me to board clear. Maybe I shouldn't snipe a 4K. I should be sniping a Bara so that as the game progresses, I'm not getting put into disadvantage blocking situations. And another thing is the fact that I need to be able to establish 4K bodies faster than him, but which is obviously very hard because he does have like a a plethora of it. But I do have to find specifically like the Yuki, the forecast Yuki that has nullify impacts, and then the Kirito, the forecast Kirito that when it's 5k or more it draws a card. Those are very helpful because he's kind of put in a situation where he has to either go into like a combo type of turn where maybe like the Bara into the bomber where he has to get his special.
Very interesting. Now, for you, Tio, what are the cards that you want to be sandbagging, holding back until he tries to change the momentum so that you can attempt to steal it back into your favor?
Number one is for sure is Paladin's Necklace.
Mm.
That card is my save all be all if I don't can't find a release. Because I feel like specials are obvious. I mean, everyone wants to hold a special back just in case.
Yeah,
But
of course.
specials aside, Paladin's Necklace is for sure. I don't mind throwing out again through early to blow up a weenie. Uh, so I have a 4K body out.
Mhm.
But Paladin's Necklace, I want to save that until the bitter end.
Mm. So, ooh, wait, I just lost my place in the matchup. What is your biggest concern in the said matchup, Izarzin? Is it the combo lines, the speed of the curve, or the Paladin's Necklace? Which one do you think is like that is your biggest like this sucks? Izarzin? Oh no, I think we lost him.
Oh, he's here. Maybe he's been disconnected.
Maybe. We'll go back to talking to you then, Tio, because I'm not reshooting this. Does
Yeah.
your role in the matchup ever shift depending on your opening hand, or are you flexible between tempo and combo?
I'm pretty flexible. Again, the highest energy in this whole deck is 4, and that's the Ray get through. Everything else is cheaper, so my general game plan of being aggro never really changes. So I
Yeah.
can go with whatever I need to go to. It may be a little slower to get my energy up first, and then start hard playing some raids, but
Mm.
it won't change much.
So, would you say that this matchup is even favored or rough for Bomber?
It's close. I don't think I can tell yet. We are faster, and we do have as much removal as they do. They have their Sinon raids that snipe. So we have our get through raid that can remove. We also have our Paladin's necklaces. I'm running at 3, so which is higher than maybe higher than others.
Mm.
Um, so us being faster, if they get even quasi bricked, they're in for a bad time because we are swinging a lot. But
Okay.
I feel I haven't played enough games to figure out really what it should be. I feel like this should still be Sinon favored, but not by much. Maybe 55,
Oh,
45, maybe.
very
But it
interesting.
still has a lot of if they can get up to 6 or 7, there's not much I can do about 5K bodies if I don't have special. Like even Bar gets it down to 4 and get through only silence 3Ks or less. So a Kirito, if I don't have a release card or necklace, I can't do anything with that.
Yeah, that's just a permanent spot inside of that slot on the field that you can't really answer.
Yeah.
So last thing that we can go over is what do you think the percentage in the matchup is based off of skill and based off of lack of skill, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's 55-45, probably GGO. I do think it's even if the GGO doesn't know to remove the Bara.
Mhm.
They remove like the 4K body threat or they leave Bara alive. It automatically makes it like a close to even matchup because he's the most important card. But you may not know that without playing against the deck a few times.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I'll still say due to the I'm sure amount of removal they do have access to, even though it costs a little more energy. I would still say it's probably 55-45 Sinon.
55-45. Okay. Now, I would have had a slightly different number, but I mean, you're the person who plays the deck the most, and you're the one who just played through the matchup. So, yeah, that sounds about good to me. Bomber has legs, but maybe not enough to handle all the big dumb green decks yet.
Not yet, soon.
But I think that'll be everything for this part. And if we need to reshoot this, we will reshoot this. That's perfectly fine. Thank you very much for taking the time. And thank you as well, Izarzin. Shout out to Big Beard Pirates and TOGDX. We'll see you guys in the next episode.